So hello everyone, welcome to week 11 recitation lecture. And in today's recitation lecture, we are going to continue our intro to spreadsheet series. And let's just quickly go through our schedule over here in the canvas. So we are in week 11, right? So last week, that is for recitation 10, we started off with basic introduction to spreadsheets. I'm gonna just give an overview of it again in this recitation, and we are going to work on few sample problems. We'll just have a hands-on experience with spreadsheets, Microsoft Excel, right? And then I think, yeah, in today's recitation, that's specifically for week 11, we're going to learn a few more concepts of spreadsheets, covering VLOOKUP and all those functions. And yeah, I think we can directly get started with our recitation lecture. On a side note, I guess, yes, you guys have your exam too this week. It's gonna open up on November 15th, right? Over here you can see the timings, right? November 15th, 9:20 till November 16th, 9:20. So by the time you are done with your exams, you guys would be having your lecture 11, and you can just definitely watch that afterwards. And regarding the deadline to mark the attendance for this lecture, I'll keep it maybe next Tuesday or something like that. I'll just make an announcement for the same when I'm just done uploading the lecture. So yeah, so just getting to our slides over here. I believe in last lecture, we started off with just basic understanding of what is a spreadsheet, right? And few of the commands, and just we saw a couple of examples of how we can just autofill the data, right? So again, let me just pull off my example one Excel file, which was shared with you guys too. If you want to just work with me simultaneously, just go to files, again, same recitation information folder. Inside that, there's a folder called my name. Over here, you'll find, so in today's recitation, this lecture video, we are going to work on two different files. So one would be present in recitation 10 folder, which is the example1.xls file, right? And over here, the second one would be in recitation 11 folder, which is example2.xlsx file, right? So just make a note of that. And first things first, we are going to work on our example1 file. So let me just pull off that over here. Okay. Okay, I think so. You guys are good. Okay. So here, what we're gonna do is that this is the template to get started with your Excel, and there are a couple of columns here, right? We gotta fill the data in the columns. So just if you look at the PPT over here, I think we guys saw about something called as the drag option, right? In this thing over here, in the sheet 2 over here, right? I gave you an example of how we can just autofill the values in the rows over here. So again, just to reiterate or revise that thing again. So let's say there are serial numbers, right? You have data, and one way is I can just manually enter the data 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth, right? The other way, what if there are thousands of entries, right, in the table over here? So you do not have to write manually, right? So what you can do is that you just select first two rows, and if you just hover your cursor to this bottom right part of here, you see this plus sign, just simply drag this thing down. Boom. So of course you'll just get to see the values incrementing in and ascending order. And this is just the autofill feature in Excel. You have it here. So that's something regarding the basics. Of course, you can just do this not just with the numeric integers. You can do this with your months as well. Suppose, let's say if I write January, right? And here, let's say if I write February. And if I just simply select this two and drag, of course, it will just give me the further sequence of the months, right? Feb, March, April, May, June, right? So I mean, yeah, this is just the basic stuff which we did in last recitation lecture. So today's presentation, let's just move ahead with this example one, which was left, and we'll again do some of the advanced stuff with Microsoft Excel with our example two for the day, right? So first things first, in our PPT over here, if you see that, follow the steps. So download this example1.excel file from your recitation folder. I hope you guys have done that. Open it in Excel. Okay, awesome, great. And then first things first, which we're going to do is add the title, which says example1 hyphen payroll statement, right? Something like that. So if I just go to my Excel, if you open it in your system, it will look something like this, right? So here, let's say, let me just zoom a little bit so that it's visible for you guys. So yeah, so if I want to enter data over here in any kind of cell, right? One more thing, again, I hope you guys remember, this particular value which is selected currently is called a cell, right? Now, like all these are cells, right? We have tables, we have rows over here, we have columns, right? A, B, C, D is the column names, headers, and 1, 2, 3, 4 on the left side are just the row values, right? So if I select any cell, so each and every cell in Excel comes with a address, reference address, something like that, right? So for this particular cell which is selected, its reference address is C1 column and the row value number, right? It falls like, so for this cell, it belongs to C column and the row number is 1, right? So if I select this particular cell, let's say this one, 43,000, right? So for that, the cell reference address can be B12, right? This is the column value and this is the row value. So in this, we just target and have this reference address for each and every cell in Excel, and we're gonna see that why do we need cell reference address and what are the ways in which we are gonna make use of those addresses, right? So for now, let me just add a title which says, let's say example one hyphen payroll statement, right? And of course, let me just again see. So here, this whole sentence is taking up two cells, right? If I just want to merge the two cells, I'll simply click here, I'll press shift and right arrow cursor over here. And again, over here, what we can do is, you see this option merge and center, just click on that, right? So it will just take two of the cells, both of the, it will just merge the cells, right? Again, I can just do plenty of stuff, like for example over here, let me just select a whole lot of cells over here, and I can add some kind of background over here. Let's say if I add a background of light blue, right? Or maybe more light. Okay, a background, nice little background. Of course, I need to just write and select the font, right? So for that, I can make it black. I can also make it a bold, right? Something like this. And let's just merge more number of columns, right? Rows, cells. And here, notice that we have something called as day written over here. So I can even change the value for it. So I want it to be black, right? Makes sense. So here, what we have is, this is the title of our table. Here we have something called as date function in Excel. So what we can do is, right, if I write equal to and today in all caps and just parentheses, right? And if I click on enter or written, so it will just pull up today's date for me, right? It's November 16th, right? So you can try out this in your system. It will just automatically fetch the date and display that particular content. So this was just about basic styling and formatting, how we can just enter the values in our Excel environment, how we can just pull up the date. And moving ahead in our PPT, it's said that enter month starting with January and autofill till August, right? So here, if I write January, for example, it wants to, like, it says that you want to autofill the values. So I did not have to manually write Jan, Feb, March, April, May, June till August, right? So let's say if I write the next value as August or February, right? So Jan, Feb, and if I just select this two and drag this thing down over here, so it will autofill the values till August, right? So again, this is a very handy feature, which is very convenient in Excel to use, right? So let's see what we have next. Over here it says autofill overtime column with 3,200 value, $3,200. So here, let's say if I write 3,200, right? And I just want to put the same value for all the remaining column values, right? So what I can do is I can use the same autofill drag feature and drag it till D12, right? Over here, D12. So it will just put the same values for all the rows, right, of 3,200. So again, that's very basic and simple what we are doing. Next, enter and copy commission formula. Okay, so here comes our first part of applying formulas in Excel, right? So usually in Excel, of course, there are many features which we can use, right? So for example, we can enter a formula for any kind of column. So for here, we got to enter the formula to the commission column, which is salary into 15%. So I want my values to be here, which is the salary value multiplied by 15%, right? So what we can do is, right, rather than, of course, manually doing this thing for each and every row, for example, 62,000 times, I can write 0.15, right? So rather than doing this, of course, this will not work, right? I got to put it in a formula, something like this. This will work, right? But what if I just want to do it for all the rows? So what we can do is, right, I'll write equal to over here, and we have a formula in Excel. Just give me salary commission. Okay, cool. So what we can do is, cool. So I can write equal to, and I want to just multiply this particular value by 0.15, that is 15%, right? So what is the cell reference address for this particular cell? It's B and 5, right? Column B, row 5. So I can write something like this, B5. Or I can just click on this. That's it. Just simply click on this. It will automatically write B5 over here, right? B5 multiply by this small little sign for multiplication, 0.15, right? That's it. I just gotta click enter or return. It will simply give me the equivalent value, right, of salary multiplied by 0.15. Now, what can I do is I can just simply again use my autofill feature. It will just give me the equivalent values for the remaining rows, right? So that's how, I mean, easy it is to just simply use the formula in Excel. If you want to see the formula for this thing over here, you can see it over here in the formula bar, right? It says equal to B5 into 0.115, right? So same thing, if you want to use it for, let's say, enter an autofill mortgage payment, right? So this is the formula which we have, B5 plus C5 plus D5 into mortgage rate. So mortgage payment, it's B5. So we are just gonna work for this first row, and remaining we can just simply drag down by using the autofill feature, right? So it's B5, that is the salary column, plus C5, that is the commission, plus D5. Okay, so mortgage payment is calculated by the summation of all these columns, like salary, commission, overtime, multiplied by mortgage rate. Now, what is mortgage rate? So over here, do you see this thing? Mortgage rate 0.118, 18%, right? So this is the mortgage rate. So again, we can do this in a same way, right? I can write something like this. Let's say, okay, there's a problem with this one. Okay, cool. So let's say I write B5, or I can just select it over here, B5 plus C5 plus D5, okay, times mortgage rate. So rather than writing 0.18, I can pass the address for this particular cell, which is A16, right? A16. So this should work, right? If I just hit enter, let's see if it's working or not. Okay, okay. Um, let me just drag the values over here. Whoa, it should work, right? So I mean, we are getting the value for the first row over here, but how about all this remaining values, row values, right? We are getting 0. Let's just again look at the formula: b5 plus c5 plus d5 times a16. So what just happened? Like exactly what is happening. So for that, there's something called as absolute reference and the relative reference, right? We're gonna look at what do I mean really by absolute or relative reference. So here in your slides, if you see that first, do using relative referencing, incorrect results. We are getting incorrect results. We are getting number of zeros here over all these values, right? So it says next try absolute referencing or mortgage rate, correct result. So let me just show you an example for that purpose. So let's say, let me just delete this values. Okay, I think so. There's an issue. Okay, good. Okay, so here, let's say I have this small tiny table, right, which has 3 columns: data 1, data 2, and multiply, right? So here we have a couple of data in data 1 column, and same with data 2. Over here, I just want to put the values of the multiplication of data 1 and data 2 columns. So let's say over here, I just want to multiply, let's say it's 2, so which is C21, right? Again, the same address reference times, I want it as, I'll just click on this, D21, that's it, and hit enter. It's 12. Again, if I just drag this down, it will give me the equivalent multiplication values for all the remaining rows. But now, let's say I have a value over here, which is 30, anything. Just for example, just randomly assume that I have a value called 30 over here. And now, my requirement over here, let's say multiply 30. Let's say I have another column over here which says multiply 30. And now my requirement is that I want to multiply all my values of data 1 by this 30 value and put it over here. You're getting it? So over here, it should be 2 times 30. So 2 times 30. Similarly, here it should be 3 times 30, something like that. I want all the remaining values to be multiplied by 30 only for data 1. So how can I do that? With the help of formula, right, in Excel. So can I write something like this? Equal to, select this thing, multiply by, select this thing. Okay, if I hit enter, awesome. We are getting that right result, right? 2 times 30 is 60. But now notice that again, if I just use this drag down feature to autofill the values, it will give me zeros. And that's the same problem which we are facing in our example 1 Excel sheet, right? So what's happening here, that we have something called as relative and absolute referencing. So over here, earlier, what we were doing is that when we were multiplying C21 by D21, it was relative to this thing. So here, this 30 is not present, or it's part of this thing, right? So here, notice that if I just click on, let's say, let me just click on formulas over here. And if I click on show formulas, so notice that over here, it's written C21 times F16, C22 times F17, C23 times F18. So here, for the first part, it's fine, of course, 2 times 30, which is 60, right, over here. 2 times 30, which is 60, F16, that's fine. But even if we are using, so this is the by default relative referencing which we were using, right? So it will go and autofill the values based on this relative index or address value which we are passing. After that, it will shift down to 1 value. So after that, it will multiply this value, that is 3, with the row below F16, which is F17, right? So how can we just solve this problem or tackle this situation? So that's something called as absolute referencing, wherein we can include $sign over here in front of our column and row namings, right? So let's say over here, if I write $F and $16, and let me just okay. And now let's say if I just drag this thing down, so now we're getting the equivalent values, right? 2 times 30 is 60, 3 times 30 is 90, and so on and so forth. Like 5 times 30 is 150 over here, right? So what we just did is we used absolute referencing, right? We just added a dollar sign over here in front of F and 16. So now you can ask me that why do we need to enter dollar sign in front of F and 16? What happens if we just write dollar sign just before F and not 16, or vice versa, like before 16 and not F, right? So let us do that also, right? So for example, over here, notice that F over here is the letter. It's used for our columns, right? So if you place the dollar sign in front of F, it says that you want to lock it. You want to lock it the columns. You want to just lock it for all the columns. It will just traverse it horizontally. But over here, if you just place this dollar sign in front of 16, it will lock it for all the rows, and it will traverse it in a vertical way. So what do I mean by it? Let me just let's say again, um, remove this dollar. Let me just put $F16 over here, right? And again, let me just delete these values. And now let me just drag this thing down. It will not work, right? Because over here, what our goal is that I want my equivalent values for rows 22, 23, and 24, right? All the remaining rows for this particular operation, right? So we got to lock our values vertically, that is row wise, right? So I'm gonna place my dollar in front of 16. This thing is optional, right? Because here we are traversing row wise and not column wise. So now if I just write this thing should work again. We should get the results, right? So that's fine, mandatory. Like you can just place the dollar sign in front of F and 16, or before 16 over here, which in this case we want it to be traversed in vertically, right? In for all the rows. So again, for horizontal traversal, like I can write something like this. Let's say January, February, and now if I just select this two and drag it over here, so notice that you are traversing horizontally, that is column wise. So you're getting the equivalent values by the use of autofill feature, right? So I mean, that is what I mean by horizontal or vertical traversal, column or row manner, right? So this was just about relative and absolute referencing, wherein you just have to place this dollar sign in front of F or 16, or by rows and column naming format, right? So I think this is clear. Or the same thing we are going to use in our example over here. So the same thing, if you want to just look at over here, I'll just delete the values which we got over here. If I just want to have to place the formula again, it's B5 plus C5 plus D5. Okay, what next? Times, I want to multiply by the mortgage rate over here. It's 0.18, right? But note that 0.18 is like externally present over here. So I don't want to reference it relatively. I'll rather reference it absolutely, like with the absolute reference methodology, right? So I can write, instead of course, I can write it over here, A16, which is the address value of this cell, but I need to write dollar over here, right? And now if I click enter, it will give me the equivalent value, but not just for the first row, for all the remaining rows, right? So this is how we are gonna get the equivalent mortgage payment values for this particular column, right? What next? We have something called as pension fund. So again, same thing, we have a formula which says salary plus overtime times 25%. So over here, I can write it as salary, which is D5. Okay, just give me a moment. Salary plus overtime times 25% means 0.25. Awesome. Same thing, just drag this thing down. Easy, no rocket science. And now what next? We have something called as total deductions over here. Calculate total deductions, mortgage payment plus pension fund. That's it. So I just want you guys to pause this video and try it in your system to compute the values for the total deductions column, right? It's just simply the mortgage payment plus pension fund. That's the summation of these two columns. That's it. Just pause this video and try it out and just check what results you are getting it, right? I can write that mortgage. Oh, not this one. Mortgage payment plus pension fund, enter. Awesome. Okay, cool. And now for our last column, which is the total pay, we just want to insert the sum function. Okay, you may type the range or you want to just click and drag. Okay, sum of D5 to D5. Awesome. So total pay is just the summation of the salaries over here, right? It says for all this thing, all these values. Or no, just give me a moment. Calculate total pay. Insert sum function using a function wizard sum B5 to D5. You may type, okay, so this should be the range, right? So D5, this is about what total pay is, right? All the summation of these things. So what we can do is over here, if I write something like, let's say sum, there's a function in Excel called sum, right? And if I write B5 salary, what next? I can pass it a range, right? To D5. So what is D5 over here? D5. That's it. This is D5, right? D5. Enter. So what I'm getting is 74500, right? 74 7,450 or 74,500, right? So over here, we're just passing the range for this particular thing. It will take all these three values for the three columns, right? Across the three columns. So again, if I just simply drag it down, it will just give me the summation of all the three columns. So total pay is the summation of salary plus commission plus overtime, right? So that is something about how we can just fill in the data depending on the requirement by using the Excel formulas. So again, a few more stuff remaining in this part. For example, we can just calculate the totals of all the columns over here. So the total values, which we can do is by again using the sum function, right? So that's something called as auto sum over here, right? You can see if I click on auto sum over here, let's say if I just select all the column values, if I click on auto sum, it will give me the sum over here, right? I don't want it to be here, but let's say I want it to be here, right? It's 584 400. So I can of course do it in this manner, or I can write it by simply putting the sum formula. I just want to pass the range. So the range for this particular for the summation of the commission formula should be C5. Okay, C5 till it should be till C12, right? And I click on enter, it's 87,660, right? So that's how you gotta calculate the sum. Now, what if I just want to put the dollar values for all my numeric values, right? Again, so if you go on our home page over here, there's something called as currency, right? Make sense? So if you just click on this dollar, it will have your values in the notation or the condition is the dollar, right? So you'll just have your currency. That's it. That's how it works. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it. And what else? Yeah, see, so for here to calculate the column totals, I did for the first two columns, right? For the remaining, of course, I can use my drag feature to just autofill the remaining values. It will just autofill all the remaining values with its equivalent summation of the total, right? And now, let's just see what we have. We have to insert another column, let's say net pay column, with the heading, and the formula is total pay minus total deductions. So let me just enter another column which says net pay, and here the formula is total pay minus total deductions. The total pay is H5 minus total deductions. This is G5, right? If I click on enter, I'll get the value. If I simply drag this thing down, again, I'll get the equivalent values for it, right? So, I mean, yeah, this is how we got the values for all the columns and rows in our table called example one payroll statement. What else? We can, of course, have some kind of formatting. I can put something like this. What else? I can put some kind of borders around it, right? All borders. Okay. Pick border box. Okay. Okay, cool. And now what we can do is I want to calculate, if I want to calculate the averages for the last two columns over here. So let's say add the label average in G6 and average function to compute the average total, right, in cell H6. So how can we just do that if I just want to calculate the average, right? So for that, let me just write average over here. Average. And here over here, I want to calculate the average for the total pay. So I'll write equal to, and this thing, right? Average. So I'll just put the range. So I'll just put H5 till, let's say, H13. That's it, right? I'll get the average, right, over here. Same thing over here. I can just simply drag this thing also, right? So these are the average values for the total pay and net pay column, right? Can simply, of course, do the same thing over here. I can just simply put it in a way so that we have good this thing, right? Cool. And now what else? I can just format this thing accordingly. Not this, black looks good. We have the average values, right? And one more thing, if I just go on and select all my table values over here, if I click on something called as format as table, right, over here, and let's say if I go with this view style, like this thing, where is the data for your table? So data starts from A4. Okay, so see, this is how it's just converted in a format as a table, right? So if I click on this, so I can, it helps me to give provide different kind of filtering data over here, right? So I can just filter the data according to the months and stuff like that, right? So that's something which you can do when you have tables, or keep it normal when whatever like is your use case, right? So I think we are done with this problem statement. For example, one, we just added the average and worksheet operations. Yeah. So what you can do is, right, of course, like after the end, if you would just want to see the formula for everything else, you can click on formula and click on show formulas. So you'll get to know that wherever you have used the formula, it will just show you the equivalent formula for all the cells over here, right? So that's where you'll just get to know the applied formula from a high level or top view, right? So that's about, I mean, the formula, rest everything. I think it should be good, and we can start with our example 2 problem statement, that is for this recitation, the next problem statement, right? So let me just hide this thing for now, and let me just pull up our example 2. Awesome. And okay, cool. So here, if I just open up the slides for our recitation 11. Okay, this is the part 2, of course, our Excel spreadsheet functions. So download the example2 from the recitation folder. Same thing, you'll just find a folder called recitation11 and just download this example.excel file. We will go deeper into spreadsheet functions. Okay, so if you just open up this file, it will look something like this. And here there are various other sheets. Did you see that? Grades, gradebook, and loans, right? So I think there should be one more. Yeah, there's something called as flower shop sales, right? Just click on this. So this is whole the example2 itself is a workbook, Excel workbook. And in that, we have couple of different Excel sheets right over here. One of them is flower shop sales, gradebook, grades, loans. So let's say currently we are working on flower shop sales, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to work on this particular sheet and just do the modification stuff and learn various other functions in Excel. So first things first, just quickly write your name over here. It should be unique. So let's say I write it as Sergio's flower shop. Okay. Insert the date. Now you know how you just insert the date by using the today function, right? Today function. Enter. It says November 16th. Okay. So add a title. We did that. Add the date. Okay. Now compute today's sales tax, gross income, net income, and need to reorder columns. All these are the column names. Okay. We are going to learn our if function in Excel. Yes, we have, of course, we have if function in Excel just like we did in JavaScript, but here the method is very much easier. Like the syntax, everything else, of course, it's very easy. So we will just make a use of if function for sure in a while. But for that, let us just quickly see that what else we have. Okay, so we have something called as sales tax rate over here, 0.09, right? And number of bouquet and a price per bouquet, bouquets in stock, need to reorder. So, okay. First, let us just quickly compute this column, need to reorder column, by using our if function. So what it says that you just want to put yes or no, or if the number of bouquets in stock is less than 20. So if it's less than 20, we're just going to put yes, and if it's more greater than 20, we want to put it as no. So what we can do is over here in my cell wherein I just want to put the formula, I will write something like equal to if. Okay, it's suggesting me, right? So first is notice that whenever you write if, it will suggest you the number of parameters it is accepting, right? So first things first is the logical test, which is the condition, right? So what I want my condition to be. So I want to check this particular column values over here. I want to say that if, let's say 7 over here. So if D5 is less than 20, okay, comma, value if true. So if this is true, what kind of value I want to put in this particular cell? So if it's true, I want to put as yes. Okay. And if it's false, the third parameter is value if false. Okay. If it's false, I want to put it as no. Okay. That's it. We are done. So if we write it something like this, okay, this is for this particular row. Now, if I again simply just drag this thing down, we have all our values for rest of the rows. So let's just check. For example, over here, 44, of course, is greater than 20. So we would be having a value of no, right? And this need to reorder column. Okay, so that is something how we use the if function to just compute the values according to some kind of condition over here, right? So now let's see what we have next. Okay, use the round function in sales tax column and round to 2 decimal places. Okay, we have rounding off here, of course, in Excel as well, just like we did in JavaScript. I hope you guys remember that how we used to do the rounding off in JavaScript. There was something called as to fixed method, right? And when in the parentheses as a parameter, you guys used to write 2, which is just that you want 2 numbers after the decimal places, right? So over here, we're gonna use, of course, there's a function called round over here, right? So use the round function to the sales tax column. Okay, so for that, again, before that, I mean, let's just calculate the column totals. Okay, right, for here, I just want to calculate the column totals. I can write it as something called as sum, and inside that I want to pass the range, right? So it's B5 till B14, right? Click on enter, and of course I can just drag this thing here to calculate the equivalent sum totals for price per bouquet and bouquets in stock column, right? And what next? Okay. COUNTIF. Okay. So let's understand something called as COUNTIF. I'll just come back to rounding off just in a while. First, let's just compute the COUNTIF. So fill in column totals using sum or AutoSum. We did that. But be careful if you are using AutoSum. Okay. For the need to reorder column, we can use something called as count function to count the number of yes. So what we want to do is that over here, count total columns, column totals row. Over here, for the need to reorder column, I want to count the total number of yes, and I want to write that number. So here, the total number of yes we have is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I want to write 4 over here. But of course, let's say here we have the data for a few of the flowers, right? Let's say our data entries are in thousands. We cannot manually count the number of yes, right? So for that, we have something called as count if function, right? So in that, I want to write it as, let's say, count if range and the criteria. So I want to pass the range that is E5 till E14. Okay. And what's the criteria? What I want to count is the number of yes, right? So in the double quotes, I'll write something like this, yes, and that's it. We'll get the value automatically. That's 4, right? Which is correct. So let's say, of course, if I just write it as no over here, it will give me the count of no's present inside this column, which is 6, right? But for now, let's just keep it for yes. Okay, awesome. What next? Fill in median, mean, max. Okay, count a range. Okay, cool. So here, let's just again work on our rounding off part, right? So for our gross income column, which is this one, we want to compute it by using this formula, which is price times number sold. Okay, so let us just quickly write it as price, which is price per bouquet, C5 times number sold, right? So number in bouquet or bouquet sold. This is the number, right? 95. Okay, so we got something called as 2849.05. Okay, I think so. This is not correct. Let me just cross check. It's F5. Okay, C times my F5. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is correct. So here again, if I just simply drag this thing down, it will autofill the values over here, right? So that's cool. We gotta calculate the sales tax by using the formula called rate times gross income. Again, what is the rate over here? It is 0.09, right? Times gross income. This is. So again, just note that thing over here. We want to use the sales tax rate. For that, we're going to use our absolute referencing, right? So rate times gross income, or maybe gross income times rate tax, which is this G1, right? But of course, I'm going to write $sign because it's absolute referencing, right? Again, I'll do that for all the remaining row values. And note that over here, after the point, we are getting like 4-digit numbers, right? So I just want to put it to 2 decimal places after the point. So for that, we are going to use our round of function. So what we can do is I can just put all this inside my round function over here, of course, and at the end, I need to pass the second parameter, which is num digits. So I write 2, that's it. So again, just let me delete the values. I have this thing over here, and if I just drag this thing, I'll have everything after the point as two digits, right? So that's how you do it by using the round function. For net income, it says gross subtract sales tax. So what's the sales tax? Okay, 25. This is the sales tax and this is the gross income, right? G2. I just want to simply subtract these two values. That's it. Equals to, what was it earlier? Gross minus this thing. Okay. My bad. Equals to gross minus sales tax. That's it, done. Again, simply just drag this thing down. You'll get the equivalent values for it, right? So for the sum, again, this is fine. We're having all the values of the rows and columns. Let me just do some kind of formatting over here. Let's say we have the values for this. Okay. Of course, I don't need the merger. I want my borders. Okay, cool. And over here, I need something called as conditional formatting because I just want to highlight all the options which are in yes, right? So for that, there's something called as conditional formatting, right? New rule. Let's see if I click on new rule. The lowest value, highest value, color. Okay, no, I don't want something like this. Equal to, right? So let's say for cell value is equal to, yes, I want it to be filled with light red, filled with this thing, right? So it's filling up the values wherein we have the values called yes, right? So this is just how we can use this conditional formatting over here in Excel. What else? Let's say I would just want my data to be in center position over here, right? For all my cells. So I'll just drag and select my table. If I click on over here, you see that this thing, if I click on this, it will just simply put my all values in the center position, which just makes it look clean and nice, right? So this was about how we can put it in center. And I want my dollar values to be shown here, displayed for gross income, sales tax, and net income. Again, I'll click on dollar, or maybe I don't want I don't want the space in between, right? So here I'll just quickly, instead of custom, I'll click on currency as dollar, right? So I think that's it for the dollar symbol for our last three columns. Okay, let's quickly write our functions for, let's say, number of let's just quickly see what we can do is for max and min, right? Of course, for max, there's a function called max, right? So here I can write as something equal to max. Notice that it's suggesting me here. So first parameter is the number 1, the second is the number 2, and for that I'll just simply pass the range for this particular column of number in bouquet, right? So this B5 till B14, that's it. So the maximum value in this column is 24. You can cross check that, right? Same thing with the minimum. Let's say if I write min, and same thing, B5 till B14, the minimum value is 6, right? So again, I can just simply drag this thing over here. You can find it over here. The maximum value in this column is 39.99, and here it's 44. and the minimum value over here, it's 11.99 in price per bouquet column, and the minimum value in bouquets in stock is 5, which is 5 over here, right? So that's how you can use the min and max functions. We have something called as median, right? So for median, of course, just like median max, we have a function called median. Median, that's it. Again, simply just pass in the range B5 till B14, drag this thing over here. So you'll get the median values over here. It's 12 for this particular column. What next? We have something called as number of items with values, text, and numbers. So what is that? Like, how can compute this particular thing? So we saw something called as count if, right, over here, wherein we just compare the value 4. But we have something called as count function. So it accepts, again, parameters of value 1 and value 2. So what we're trying to do is we want to calculate the number of items with values, text, and numbers in this particular column, right? So I can write something, for example, let's say count A. So in our slides, I just want to show you where it's written. Okay, yeah. So fill in median, min, and max using median, min, and max functions. We did this thing. So use count A range to find the number of cells with text and numbers. Count range to find number of cells with that contain only numbers. And count if range to count number of cells. So over here, I'm gonna count the number of cells with just text and numbers both, right? So we have something called as count A function. Okay. Let me write it as count A. You know, this is suggesting me count A, right? So count A in that range, I just want to pass it over here. So let's say B5 till B14, same thing. So 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It will count the numbers of text and numbers both. So we have numbers over here. So this satisfies, right? Number of items with numbers only again, right? So for that, we have something called as count, right? So count B5 till B14, of course, equals to, wait, okay, right? 10, of course, and number of items with text only. So if I want it with only text, I'll write it as count if and some kind of range over here. So star to count the number of cells with. So this is how we just count the number of items with only text. I write it as count if. Okay. And I'll write the range for it, right? So what's the range? The range is B5 till B14. And now I'll just simply write the next parameter as something called as, in the double quotes, I'll write a star over here. That's it. It will simply count me the number of texts for all these columns, right? Of course, which is 0 because all of them we have are numbers. Same thing over here. If I just again drag this thing over here for the remaining 2 columns, again 10, 10, 10, 10, and 0, 0. Okay, cool. This was about for this particular column. But now, let's see for this thing. Again, see, it's coming 10 over here because all of the values are in text format. So for this 2 values, it will come as again 10, and for here it will come 0 because 0 number of items with numbers only is a 0, of course, right? So that's how you gotta do it for counting the number of text or numbers only, right? So this was about how we use the countif or count or the median, max, or minimum functions in Excel to just compute the required data in our columns, right? What else do we have? In our slides, we used something called as round off, set landscape mode via layout orientation. So page layout, of course, you can just change the landscape of your Excel environment. It's portrait, it's landscape, right? So currently it's landscape. So let's say if I click on page layout, orientation, and portrait, it will just change some of the orientation over here, right? Currently, I just want to keep it as landscape. Yeah, I think that's fine. What else do we have? You see this small linings over here, right? That's when you do, I think it's beneficial when you take out the breakdowns. So currently, let me keep it page layout home. Okay, that's fine. What else do we have? Okay, VLOOKUP, awesome. So this is a good feature or function in Excel, which is quite popular and quite helpful in all of the organizations. So to start with, of course, I don't want to give you the boring definition. I just want to show the working and application for the lookup function. So let's over here, if I just create a empty sheet for just the demonstration purpose of the lookup function, over here, let's say I just create a table, or let's say it has the name, it has the role, it has the experience. So this is just a company table data, and I'll just fill in the data. Let's say the name of the employee is Rose, Sam, John, Eric, Emily, and let's say James. Okay. The role is, let's say, data scientist, data analyst, data engineer, again, data analyst, let's say your software developer. Just increase the size. Okay, and let's say data engineer, one more. Okay, number of experiences for the employees, let's say 3, 2, 1, 2, let's say 5, and here, let's say 3. Cool. So this is just a small table when we have 3 columns: name, role, and experience. And we are going to look at how we can leverage the power of VLOOKUP function in Excel to meet the requirements. So let's say now, of course, over here, I just have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 names of the employees. But in the real case, let's say you would be having thousands of or hundreds of rows for the employee data, right? So let's say if there's a requirement where you want to just, let's say over here, you have some other table when you want the values of the name and the equivalent role for that particular employee. So what I'm trying to say that if you just write the name over here of the employee, you should be automatically getting the equivalent role for that particular employee, of course, right? So how can you do that? So this particular thing can be done with the help of VLOOKUP function. So what I mean by that is that there's a formula or the way of writing a lookup function in Excel, right? So let me just show you it. Give me a minute over here, and I'll just show you the actual formula. Okay. So here, just see the syntax of how lookup functions work. If I write a VLOOKUP, it will just show me the number of parameters it is expecting over here. So first one is the lookup value. Now, what is the lookup value? So over here, I want to look up over here or for the name value which the user is gonna write over here, right? Of course, I want that once the user writes the name here, I want to print or show the equivalent role for that particular name. So this is my lookup value where I'll just look at it and compute the equivalent role value for that particular name, right? So the lookup value is present for the cell address H9, right? Again, let me just click it here directly, H9. Okay, this is fine. Next parameter. This is the table array. So here I'll just select the table range over here from rows till experience, which is from D6 to D11. Okay, this works. Now, column index sum. So for which column I want my values to be computed. For example, over here, after looking at the value SEM, I want the result to be calculated for the column role, right? I want to just pull up the role for the particular name which I'm providing. So again, there's a small catch over here. Just make a note that this is your selected table, right? So while passing the column index a number, you gotta select the number of column. So it starts from 1. 1 is for name column, 2 is for role column, and 3 is for experience column, right? So 2 is the value which you're gonna pass for the role column, right? And our last parameter is range lookup, or we have something called as, let's say, false and true. So true is for the approximate match and false is for the exact match. So if I write false, of course, I will have to write the exact name over here, because then only it will search for this particular value and the equivalent role value for the VLOOKUP value which we are passing in the methodology or the format of the exact match, right? And in case of true, it will just do the approximate match. Let's say if I just write SA, it will just again match, and it will just find the most closest value to the value which we have written here, right? So for now, let me just write it as false, and I click on enter, and boom. Of course, let me just write nothing over here. It says NA because there's nothing over here, right? So let's say I write Eric. It will give me the equivalent role for this particular name, that is data analyst, which you can just cross check over here, right? If I write it as, let's say, John, right? It's data engineer, same, right? So this is the power of VLOOKUP function. And of course, I just wanted to show you guys this simple demonstration before jumping on to using it in our problem statement, which is example 2, because then only you will get to know the use case and how we can just put the various parameters which comes with the VLOOKUP function. So I hope this is clear. This is, I think, one of the best examples which I found, and I think it should make things clear. One more thing over here, notice that whatever value for the lookup parameter which you pass over here, and in the table, whenever you are selecting over here, you just have to keep in mind that this particular value, the name, should be the first column, because it will look up into the first column. So what do I mean by that is, let's say there's another column over here. The name of the column is, oh, what just happened over here? Okay, just give me a minute. Okay. Cool, that's fine. So let's say if there's another column called ID, and we have the values 1, 2. Of course, I'll just simply drag it down, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So of course, while working in the same way for our lookup functions, it will not work. It will give it error. I'll just let you know why it will give me an error. So let's say we look up, of course, H5, the range, again, index column number 1, 2, 3, column false, NA, right? Even if I'll pass Sam, it will still not give me the equivalent role value. Why? So here, of course, we are selecting our table data from A6 till D11. So the internal working of VLOOKUP function is something like that. It will automatically, by default, select the first row as the lookup parameter to which it's looking up. So over here, we want that it should look at the name value over here, because that's what we are writing over here, right? So by looking at the name, it should give us the equivalent role. So for that purpose, I gotta put something like this. So let's say if I put 1 instead of here, so it will give me the data scientist, right? Because it's expecting this particular values for the first column. So over here, instead of, again, while selecting my range, instead of A6, if I write something like as B6, it will of course work for our name values, Sam. Now it will work, right? Again, of course, 1 and 2, so not 3, it should be 2. That's it, right? So I think this is just a small note which you might notice while working on VLOOKUP functions, and we can directly start on our example. So okay, so here notice that this is our grade book worksheet which is currently present. So what we have to do is that we have to use our VLOOKUP function over here, and there are 3 columns, right? A name, points, and grade. Then we gotta just put the grades over here to the equivalent points of the students. So we have another worksheet called as grades. So in this we have the range, right? So of F grade for 0, D for 50, and so on and so forth. So by looking over here, what we have to do is we have to give and fill the equivalent grade points to our grade book worksheet over here. So it's, if it's 90, we should write it like over here. It should be something called as A. For 80, again, it should be something called as A, right? And for 34, let's say it should be F. But rather than manually seeing 2 different worksheets, we can create a lookup function, right? So how we can do that? So let's just quickly have a look on that. So let's say if I write it as equals to, we look up. First one is the lookup value. So where do we want to look up? So in our grades worksheet, I just want to look up over here, which is the lookup table for letter grade. I can simply pass this cell reference also, which is B2, right? So over here, if I just write it as B2, okay. And then when I'm exactly looking up which sheet, right, which is grades, okay. And what else? In that, what's the range of my values, right? What is the exact range? So I want to put the range, which is the first column, the default one, right? Which is A4 till A8, right? A4 to A8. Of course, I'll just write the $sign because it's absolute referencing. A4 range $A8. Okay. What else? What is the column index number? Again, what it should be? It should be 1 or 2. 2, right? Because over here, note that I want my grades to be computed by looking at over here, this 1 and 2, right? So grade column is present at column index 2, right? So I'll write it as 2. False or true, I'll write it as true because approximation is also fine. Approximate match is fine for me. If I click on enter, there's an error. Okay, grades, of course. We have something called as B2 grades. This exclamatory mark is just to separate our sheet name and table referencing. That's fine. To B8. Okay, not 8, but B8. Notice that we are getting the A grade over here, right? And now if I just simply drag over here, it will give me the equivalent grades for all the points mentioned for each and every student, right? So this is the power of using the VLOOKUP function in Excel, wherein we can just simply uh, um, take the reference from another sheet wherein our grades are present over here, right? And we can just put it in our gradebook worksheet, the equivalent grade points, right? Same thing, of course, we can do it for our comments column, wherein we have the values for distinct, credit, and pass. So in our grades worksheet over here, if you see here, there's a comment for each and equivalent grade, right? So same thing, we can do it with the help of lookup function that for each and every grade, there's a comment which comes along with. So over here, I want to just write the equivalent comment. So for example, here, it should be distinction, right? For B grade, of course, it should be credit. So of course, rather than doing manually, I want to do it with the help of lookup functions. So I can pause the video, and if you guys want, you can try it in your system and maybe just check it after resuming the video. So the lookup function for this particular cell would be, we look up, of course, the first value is the lookup value. So where do I want to look up? So I want to look up over here in grades, which is C2. No, not exactly C2, but I want to look up, of course, it should be here. So lookup value is this value. I want to look up at a grade, and then only I'll be able to compute the equivalent comment of that particular grade, right? So of course, it's C2. Okay. I can directly write C2 as well, C2. Okay. What next? Table array. So that's present inside my grades worksheet. So I'll write it as grades exclamatory to separate it. And in my grades, of course, I'll pass this thing over here as a range, right? So it's A13 till B17. A13 to B17. Grades $A13 to B $B17. Cool. Column index number. What's the column index number over here? So what it should be? 2, right? 1 and 2 in our grades. 1, 2. The column index number is that particular index number of the column wherein I want to compute the value. So I want to compute the value of comments over here, right? So I'll pass this at 2. I don't want to put the grades. I want to put the comments as the output of that particular VLOOKUP function, right? So I'll write it as 2 simply over here. 2, comma, of course, the matching, right? So I want to keep it as false, which is the exact match. If I click on enter, so see, I get the equivalent value as a comment by looking up at the grade of the students. If I simply drag this thing down, awesome. So you'll get this thing as the comments for all the grade points over here, right? So again, this is the power of lookup functions, right? So there's something called as, of course, average. If you want to calculate the average for all the points, you can, of course, use a function called average, right? And in that, you'll just simply pass on the range. Let's say I want it from B2 till B12. It will give me the average value of the points for all the students. Median, we have a median function, same stuff, B2 till B12. Awesome. Highest, then max. This is the same stuff, same functions which we are learning. Max 96 is the highest points, and the lowest is B2 till B12, right? 34 is the lowest point for the student called Anant, okay? And what else? Number passing. So if the grade is greater than 60, then it's passing. We just find the number of students who are passed, right? So for that, what are we going to use over here? Any guesses? Exactly. We want to use, of course, our COUNTIF function, right? So we say that something, let me zoom a little bit over here. if I write count if over here, okay, the first parameter is the range. So I want my range to be, let's say, B2 to B12. Okay, what next? I want to see that I want to apply my greater sign over here. I want to just in the double quotes, I want to just put the number greater than equal to 60. I can write something like this. If I click on enter, it will give me 9. So again, just see that we pass the range of this particular column for points, and I see that greater equal to 60. So it will give me the total count for all the points which is having a value greater than 60, right? If you just see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, not exactly. I think something is wrong. Greater than 60. What if I write 100 over here? It's 0. Okay, cool. Less than 62. Two values are less than 60, which is 34 and 54. That's it. Yeah, I think it's working. I think there's a problem in my range. B2 to B12. Cool. I think, yeah. Number of values is 9. Yeah, it's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, of course. So now, number failing. So grade less than 60. Same stuff which we are going to put over here. Oh, gosh. I can count if B2 to B12. 60. Okay. Count if B2 to B12. What should we write it over here? Less than 60. It's 2, right? So number of A's, count if. Number of B's, count if. Number of C's. This thing, I want to put it as a homework for you guys to practice. I'll just show you how can you or how can you calculate the number of A's, right? So here, of course, I'll write the function of count if, and the range for that would be this particular column, right? Starting from C2 to CF. I want to count the number of A's. I'll put A as a double quote. That's it, 4. So total, we have 4 students who got a grade A, right? So in similar stuff manner, you can just do it for B and C and D, right? What else? I think that's done for our this particular sheet. And I think so. Of course, we exceeded the time limit for this particular recitation lecture, but of course, I wanted to just cover all the stuff. Okay. Last stuff is just the conditional formatting. And regarding our last worksheet, the loans one, I think that I can cover in my next class, or I can just give it to you as a homework. So you can just practice it and just let me know if you just stuck around somewhere during my recitation, lab support or office hours. So for just the last part as the conditional formatting over here, if I just have to see it over here as a conditional formatting. Okay, cool. So here, what I want to do is that I just want to highlight and color the cells as per the condition in different kind of groups. So let's say 65 to 80 require a yellow color and greater than 80 require a green color. So let's just put this thing first as a green color, right? So all the grade points greater than 80, I just want to put it as a green color. I'll just select this column. I go on this conditional formatting. You see this thing called as highlight cells rule, greater than, right? So here, if I just click on greater than 80, right? And of course, green field will dark green text. Okay. And I select, I'll get all the cells selected as green for all the values greater than 80. Notice that this is an 80. Of course, that's not selected because it's not greater than 80 is equal to 80. And now I just want to select all the cells for yellow color having the range between 65 to 80, right? Again, I'll just select my whole column, 65 to 80. I'll click on conditional formatting, between, right? So between 65 and 80, I'll write it as a yellow color. Okay, awesome. So I have my values over here between 65 and 80. What next? 0 to 64, apply a red color. Okay, that's fine. 0 to 64, just apply a red color. Conditional formatting. Range between 0 to 64. Red color, right? 54 and 34s are less than 64. So I'll write this. So this is how you just do the conditional formatting based on different kind of conditions where you can put. And I think so we are done with today's recitation. Of course, you can do the styling stuff over here for any kind of formatting by putting the background color and the font color, can make it different kind of font text, font size. And I think, yeah, this we worked on our flower shop sales. We worked on our sheet one just for I used it for the demonstration purpose of the VLOOKUP function. This is our grade book worksheet. This is our grades. And for just make a note of this, of course, that a VLOOKUP table must contain the values to look up in ascending order when used to look up a range of values, right? It should be ascending order. For example, over here, 0, 50, 65, 80, 90, right? So a VLOOKUP table must contain distinct values to look up. Okay, that's of course mandatory. And of course, I can use the merge option, which I just showed you in my first example. I have another worksheet called as loans. This I want you guys to practice on your own in your system while reading the requirements in our PPT over here. We are gonna require to use the VLOOKUP function for that. Of course, I've given you the solution and the answer for that, but I want you guys to try it first in your system without looking this thing. And let me know if you guys get stuck or don't understand anything else, but I think you should be good to go because we have covered everything, most of the stuff covering the various functions. We looked about sum today, median, max, min, average, and all of those functions along with the VLOOKUP function, right? So I think you should be good to go by just practicing this last worksheet, which is the loans worksheet, right? Just do whatever the instructions are, and it should be fun, of course, because I think Excel is overall fun if you just understand, have basic idea of knowledge of using the functions and the features of it, right? So I think that's it for our recitation 11. I'll just end this video. Of course, let me just share the secret attendance code with you all. You note. Awesome. So it is 200. The secret code for this particular recitation lecture is 200. Please don't forget to mark your attendance, and I'll see you, I think probably next week. It's off because of Thanksgiving week. I'll just update you guys with the help of announcement, or the professor which will reach out to you regarding the same. So see you somewhere soon during next week or next to next week for our recitation of 12, and all the very best for your exam. let me know if you have any doubts, and let's just connect, of course, during my lab support and office hours. And also I've released the grades for assignment 5, 6, and 8. I think 5, 6, and 7. So if you have any doubts regarding that, then just come to my office hours or lab support hours, or email me if it's urgent. And one more thing, I just want to make a note of it, right? If you just go on this assignment number 7, because I'm sure there are a couple of students in this section as well. So if you click on assignment number 7, and if you just read the instructions or the information material given to you in this particular assignment PDF, if you just scroll down over here, there's something written in this large, bold, red color text over here. And I'm sure that most of you, like some of you guys, just failed to read this thing. It says that advanced HTML DOM document and element objects and their related properties and methods are not allowed. Do not use these elements described on W3 School's page. Get element by ID method, be it document dot selector properties or anything else, right? So while checking the assignment for number 7, I found some of the students, of course, use these things. And like always, I'm sure that even if I just ask the basic stuff during my lab support hours, the students are not in the position to explain what they have written in the code. So it's but obvious that they have just blindly copied and pasted the code in their own system, right? So for that, I've just given a 0 for now, and I've just flagged it as a academic integrity violation, right? So I'm gonna have a word with the professor that what we are gonna do for such students, because if it was strictly mentioned in the PDF over here that, of course, no matter you are, no matter if even if you know the advanced concepts of HTML or JavaScript, but you got to use some things which are just inside the scope of the course, right? That's clearly mentioned here. So if you have queries regarding that, then please don't reach out to me by next week. I'll just get back to you after having a word with the professor, right? If there's anything else I can help with, then let me know, and see you guys soon. Thank you, and all the very best again for your exam, right?